Hey guys, it's January 28th, 2018, and this is your episode 131 of At Percussion. I'm your host, Casey Cangelosi, and with me as usual are Megan Arms.
Hello.
And Ben Charles.
Hi, everybody.
Ben, what's up with you chopping out online all the time?
I got a recital next month, and I have to play like a mini recital on Saturday for my day of percussion thing, so just been working stuff up and shared a little bit. You getting concerned because I can play as fast as you now?
Do you work out before you record these videos?
Usually earlier in the day, not like right
okay.
before.
Yeah, like just a couple minutes beforehand. I'll insert the video. Don't worry, people will know. Hey,
wow.
also, hey, my student Kai Polan is also here. Hey, Kai.
Hi.
Kai's been on the show a couple times, and I want to thank Kai. And also Caleb Pickering are my two DMA students here at JMU because, as you guys know, Laurel and I had a baby. So
Yay!
Hooray.
Yeah, so that's why we've been gone for these last two episodes now. And yeah, again, I want to thank Kai and Caleb because they really took over for a whole solid week at JMU. And I think they only had to message me about 80 times or so with questions and things.
Only 70 times, Caleb. Maybe 79.
Maybe so, yeah. Somewhere in that ballpark. No, just kidding. They just did a great job and like no hiccup. And they just ran all the rehearsals and did everything really well. And of course, you guys, Ben and Megan, thanks so much for just taking over and doing that duo episode. That was really fantastic. So
happy to do it.
Yeah,
happy for you guys also. Congratulations.
Thanks. His name is Robin. Yeah, and special thanks to Caleb for doing that great So Percussion interview that we put out last week. It was a really good episode.
Bravo.
Yeah, so you guys, today's guest was an in-room performing member of the very famous and well-acclaimed and group we've talked about many, many times, the Ju Percussion Group in Taiwan. She was with them from 1993 to 2002. And during her time with the Ju Percussion Group, she performed in over 500 concerts and hundreds of music-related activities, including the annual seasonal concerts they have at the Taiwan National Concert Hall. I first met her while she was an adjunct professor of percussion at Moorhead State University there with Brian Mason, and now she's a part-time assistant professor of percussion at DePauw University in Indiana. So hello and welcome, Dr. Ming-Hui Kuo. How's it going?
Great. Thank you for including me at this podcast series, at Percussion podcast series. Sorry. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here and happy to share my experience with you and chat for an hour, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, the pleasure is totally ours. So I have a kid now and I'm a working percussionist. Do you have any advice? What am I in store for? How do I still practice? Because I don't find time to practice as it is.
First of all, congratulations. You have the newborn baby. That's a very, very wonderful gift. That's the best gift ever. One of the things is, if we start to talk about this, it's probably going to be a whole hour about talk about babies.
Let's do it.
You need to be careful and talk about how to take care of baby for a mother.
I need to know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I was lucky to have a lot of helpers, to be honest with you. If I don't have a lot of helpers, I think I probably could be like a retire for several years already, because really, really have a hard time to find the time to practice and accomplish things with a baby. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I was lucky that my parents-in-law is really great help and,
that's
take care of the baby without charging that much, because you know how much a musician make. So really helpful. So I can actually finish my doctoral degree and work at Moorhead and be a full-time mom at the same time. So yeah, that's a really big help.
That was when you were you had your baby when you were in graduate school.
Well, yes, but that was a really bad idea. So,
you don't recommend it.
I don't recommend it. So that was really, how much sleep you'll get, and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I still need to find time to practice because you need to finish a degree, and you don't want to finish degree with mediocre work. You want to still be outstanding. So,
Of course.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it was pretty retired. Yeah.
Well, bravo to you, though.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm glad I survived.
Me too. We all are.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, I guess, seriously speaking for finding time to still practice with the job, a thought came to my head when I was editing y'all's 2 episodes ago when y'all did the duo episode with Justin Alexander and Luis Rivera. You guys had mentioned just how to find time as a university professor with all the extra work and all the teaching and just how busy it is. And of course, I wasn't on that episode, but the thoughts really came to my head of things to what I would say in the conversation.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of something that John Beck said on our episode, which was back when he was, I guess, full-time at Eastman. They would suggest, hey, would you be on this committee or would you do this extra thing? And I don't know if you guys remember his answer, but the answer was just, oh, I just said no because I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And we were all just stunned, like, man, can we do that? Can we say that?
Right.
But I think it is really telling that we all struggle with that a little bit, or maybe not a little bit, maybe a whole lot, because these job descriptions, they say, we want an artist, we want a busy artist, someone who will attract students and is a name. It's like, dude, being a name takes some time. That takes a lot of time. That's a whole other job in itself. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like we have to keep talking about solutions to this.
And we still need to keep our, skills, keep up our skills, right? We still need to practice a lot in order to make the work like work. Yeah. It's like an athlete and never exercise and I'm trying to win a champion. That's kind of impossible, right?
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. And, I think I love John Beck's quote there, Casey. I'm glad you brought that back up because I think some of us, especially as like junior faculty members or young artists, we feel the pressure to say yes all the time because we want to keep our job. We want to do a good job and we want to be that person that you can come to, and it's hard to draw the line and just say no, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I guess another word of thanks, I can definitely thank my department. I mean, just how supportive they've been in me having this baby, taking a whole week off. They offered more. They offered official paternity leave. I talked to HR about getting the newborn on our plan and everything. And they said like, oh, great. What are we talking about for paternity leave? I mean, they just like immediately assumed. And I said, oh, well, actually, I'm not going to officially take any. We're just going to kind of handle it within. But yeah, on that same note, I mean, I guess the thing I would say is, man, they're so supportive and just thanks so much to our department and Jeff Bush, my department chair. It's just really amazing. Everyone who like stepped up and helped. And a lot of times when you do say no, they're perfectly fine with it.
That's very great.
And you turned down paternity leave?
Do I?
I did.
Oh, I thought.
Paternity?
Yeah, I did. I guess I thought, oh, I'm still just in my 3rd year here, and I just due to, honestly, I didn't see how you guys would have done the whole semester without me. It's just a little too much, I think, given the whole regular classes you have to teach and all your classes you have to take. And yeah, it's just a little, I figured out that's too much.
Yeah.
So I learned something from last week, actually.
Yeah.
Like last week, you wasn't here sometimes, and but I believe most of us undergrad and graduate student here, they feel they need to put more responsibility to themselves because you're not here in this. We do have a regular schedule. You post on the Facebook group, and everybody just no one will remind us when it's to do what. So I think it's good lesson to us as well.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's good to hear because it encourages to me like, hey, you don't have to hold hands as much as you sometimes do, Yeah. Thanks.
It's hard to let go. I know. I feel that too.
Yeah.
It's very important.
It's hard to let go.
Yeah.
Hey, well, how about a question for Ming? She is our guest. I just came up with a few questions. Hey, can you tell us a little bit about starting percussion young in Taiwan? And Kai, if you want to add anything to this, please. What are the differences in how we do it here and how what your experience was like in Taiwan?
Well, my experience, as I know, a lot of almost every music major, we all start with the piano, right? Most of the music major student, we all require to have a certain amount of piano abilities. I mean, we all start from piano. Has to be like that way. I don't know why, but that's how we do it. And it's a little bit different around here. A lot of students that I met, they're all starting from the music or learning the instrument because the band, concert band and or marching band. But in Taiwan, if you are thinking about majoring in music, you have to have at least have a minor in piano. I learned piano when I was young, and my parents was really nice to me. It's not really like push me a lot. Oh, you have to practice every day, and it's like just because I love it and I practice. So when I come to the time like middle school, and I'm thinking about auditioning for this performing art high school, there comes a problem because I didn't work as hard as the other pianists, so I cannot major in piano because it's too competitive. So I have to choose an instrument for my major and put the piano as a minor. So everybody has some, either minor in piano or major in piano, but the minor in some other instruments in Taiwan. I think it's still the same, right? Kai?
Yeah, I think it's a same like to percussion education in Taiwan.
I think you told me that before, yeah.
Yeah, and then by the time I need to choose the instrument, my teacher actually gave me two choices. One is a percussion, one is flute. Which one you want to choose? Well, I was a middle school student, and I was like, drumming sounds like more fun. It's more fit my personality. It's like I'm more outgoing, and flutes always give me an image of very elegant ladies and play flute. I don't see myself as elegant lady over there. And at that same time, flute was a little bit pricier for me. I was like, oh, flute is expensive. And the teacher showed me, oh, you learn percussion, you only need to buy a pair of drumsticks and a drum pad. Oh, great, this is cheap. However, really, really naive I was. But turns out I really love percussion. And I was lucky after I got auditioned to this performing art high school, and I had opportunity to learn and study with Pei-Ching Wu, who's the principal of the Percussion Group. I believe you know her, right? Yeah, you met her. Pei-Ching.
I've met Pei-Ching a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, she's my primary percussion teacher and longtime friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just a rock star.
Yeah, she is the one that I really admire, that she's talented, also work very hard.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no excuse in front of her. Any excuse is not excuse. That's the lesson I learned from her. And then all the lessons I had, I cannot come out any excuse that, I didn't practice today. I cannot come out any excuse, because she's always like, there's no excuse for that. If you are not sick, too sick if you don't need to go to hospital, you should come over here to study, to have a lesson.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I am with my students.
Yeah. When I had a lesson with her and, high school students, sometimes you come up with the excuse because you don't practice. It's kind of being lazy for a week or something. I said, I'm sick. I don't feel comfortable. I cannot go to lessons. So, I feel so bad. Do you need to go to the hospital right now? I said, no. And then you should come over here for the lesson. Okay. And I just like, all right. Yeah, so that means that, I cannot say anything like, I have to admit that I didn't practice in the next. So she said, "Oh, you should practice."
Like, I know.
I don't know if you guys know this piece called Solar Myth that Jew Percussion Group does.
Solar Myth.
Oh man, well it's a sort of like marimba spiritual setting, 3 percussion marimba solo, and it's really, man, just really cool. I mean, it's very different than marimba spiritual. It's very theatrical. And oh yeah, Ming, were you doing the fans?
No.
I know that one.
Do you know that one? Yeah, you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
This piece is I think they started commissioned this piece and performed this a lot. Well, after I left the percussion group, so I'm not really familiar with that piece. But before they have this piece commissioned, and there's some of the other type of the similar therapeutic piece that's called persona. Persona. It's a similar thing, but I remember I performed with her, and we have to. She wants to have a costume on, so the piece is her role for that piece is kind of is a wizard, witches. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we have to have a piece that I also play with that with her for that kind of concerto. So we have the one piece before she and me and her doesn't play, and I have to go. We both run to the backstage. I have to set up the hair for her and change the clothes for her, and then I run to the stage. You play the intro, and then she come out with like like that. Crazy.
It's so theatrical. I mean, it's just, and so well. I mean, I know we have a lot of theatrics and pieces, but this is, I don't know, I've just never, I haven't seen stuff done that well that often. I mean, it's just fantastic.
Yeah, this is one of
amazing.
The style of music that they want to do, they like to do.
These commissions, do they stay with Jew Percussion, or do they eventually get out to... could the JMU Percussion Ensemble play Solar Myth someday? Does it eventually go up for sale and get spread around? Do you know?
Well, there's some OPs they keep themselves. They only can perform by Jew Percussion Group because they still want to have their own specialties feature for the group. And some of the commission piece that after several years of release and can open for the public to perform. I believe some of them are like that.
Okay.
So kind of half and half, or it really depends on their contract.
But
Do you guys remember the last time Jew Percussion has played at PASIC? Do we know the last time they were in the States?
It was pretty recent.
It's been a little while, right? Was it recent?
I feel like it was a while ago. I thought it was something like 2010 even.
I thought it was a while ago, too.
But I could be wrong.
I think it was in Louisville, actually.
Okay,
that would be a while ago then.
I can't remember which year was that, but it was like that long. It was in Louisville.
Okay. Kai, you're going to say something about the rep?
No, about the publishing their commission music. Because one thing in Taiwan, we may not have a percussion publisher company. And so maybe it's that kind of different culture here. If you have a commission music and one publisher company or the composer is very close to one company, they will ask them to help them publish the music. However, in Taiwan, probably we don't have, or not yet.
Oh.
So many of the commission music or original music from Taiwanese composer is not published. So they probably just perform 1 to 2 times.
Wow.
You have to know the composer and then contact them directly if you really want to perform, and then ask them about the contract between the piece with the group.
Is copyright law in Taiwan similar to copyright law in China? Because I know in China it's really, really different.
I don't know about the policy in China, but
I'm not sure.
Okay. I mean, my understanding is basically kind of non-existent in China.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't. I don't know about that. I cannot make any comments on that. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
The answer to when last time with PASIC, it was 2009.
9?
Yeah.
9.
It's very close.
Casey wins.
I win. I'm a dad now.
Ming gets second.
I'm a dad now. I need to be right about
Ben
stuff.
loses. That's for sure.
It's like the Price is Right.
That
We
I'm
both
correct.
technically lost because we were both over.
Not 2014. That's true.
But
There's a lot at stake to being wrong now.
Remember that one too, 2000. I can. Oh, my bad. I know I was there with them. I mean, it's like every year I go hang out with them because I miss them very much.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Ming, I was wondering if you studied with Pei-Ching Wu, and for anyone that's not familiar, Pei-Ching is one of the few people in the world that is renowned as a six mallet player. Did you ever study six mallets at all with her?
Very briefly. Yeah, but when she was writing the dissertation, I was with her, helping her. I'm not really helping her collect the information because that's her work. I'm helping her to take a picture of her holding mallets.
Could you, because I've seen like very little video footage of it, but I know it's the thing she does, and I know it's she wrote a dissertation on it. Could you tell us about her sort of six mallet style?
She's primarily holding the Burton's grip style. And she compares to there's a traditional way and the Stevens way, and found out the Burton's way is the best way to control those intervals change. And I learned briefly with her, and we kind of we had 1 year have a butterfly percussion group. We performed one of the pieces of six mallets and kind of ensemble. So all four of us play a certain amount of six mallets in that piece. So I remember she showed us that the different way of holding the grips, and we still choose the Burton's way. It's easier. It's not like easy, but it's easier.
Yeah, I've played a Prism Rhapsody by Keiko Abe, and there's a little tiny bit of six mallet playing that. I did like a Burton grip and shove an extra mount in there, and yeah, it seemed to work the best.
I have a technique for six mallets I'm writing a book on. It's called Call Up Another Player and Drag Out Another Marimba. It's just the book's just a list of phone numbers, players you could call, because six mallets is too hard.
Just a copy of Method of Movement taped to a two mallet book.
Yeah, she likes to challenge herself, so that's definitely her thing. She likes.
Well, whatever she says, I have to say, I mean, she's the most impressive six mallet player I've seen. Yeah, I've also seen Jack Van Giem. He is incredible at six mallets, if you guys know Jack Van Giem.
Mm-hmm.
There was a video
and I think he does it the
for
same
a while,
way.
Playing six mallets.
One of the fact for holding the six mallets, you have to be very powerful because six mallets is really heavy. To hold and play the whole time. It's really heavy.
Ben, do you want to go to a topic?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to do my topic? Is that what you're...
I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah, or we can do mine if you want.
Cool. So whenever we have a performer I don't know a whole lot about on the podcast, I always like to look up their YouTube channel. And so I looked up Ming's YouTube channel and found quite a few sort of pieces that I knew, but I don't think get performed very much. And one of the pieces she has a recording of is Toward the Sea by Toru Takemitsu. And we haven't actually ever talked about Toru Takemitsu in any sort of depth on the podcast before, so I wanted to talk about Mr. Takemitsu today. If you're curious for more information about Takemitsu, there's a book by Peter Burt called The Music of Toru Takemitsu that has, I think, quite a lot of good information in it. I found the sort of free preview of it on Google and stole some stuff from it, but it's probably something I should buy and read at a certain point. But
thanks
anyway,
for telling everyone that, Ben. Thanks for publicly saying that.
It's a free preview. That's legal. So I just wanted to share first some biographical information and then get on to his sort of percussion-focused music. He was born in Tokyo, Japan on October 8th, 1930. A month later, his family moved to China, and then 8 years later, they returned to Japan in 1938. If you're familiar with history at all, you know that around this period is when World War II was taking place, and he was actually forced into military service in 1944 when he was 14 years old. And Takemitsu described this experience as extremely bitter. From what I understand, there were concerns of foreign invasion into Japan, and so they were basically digging trenches, and so he was a trench digger, and this was obviously very hard on a 14-year-old child. Also, Western culture was basically banned during this time in Japan, so he was not at all familiar with Western music, and it sounds like there was one of the older sort of sergeants or something like that snuck a few of the kids off and played on a gramophone using a makeshift bamboo needle, a popular French song, and he sort of fell in love with it, and it sounds like it gave him sort of hope for outside of this war. So after the war, the U.S. Armed Forces were occupying Japan, and he worked for the U.S. Armed Forces, and he fell ill during this period and actually became bedridden, and so he immersed himself in Western music that he now had access to while he was bedridden. And he later stated that Japanese traditional music always recalled the bitter memories of war, and he wanted to distance himself from it. And he wanted to distance himself so much that when he later discovered one of his early works had inadvertently used some Japanese traditional scales, he actually destroyed the work. So he began composing mostly self-taught. There were, I think, 2 composition teachers I found listed throughout the years, but he was almost entirely self-taught. He began composing at the age of 16. He once stated that his teachers were Duke Ellington and Nature, which I think is a pretty cool statement. So around this time in 1951, he founded an experimental workshop, which in Japanese was called Jiken Kobo. It was an anti-academic artistic group that was focused on multidisciplinary collaboration and, most importantly, avoidance of Japanese traditions. By 1955, he'd actually begun to experiment with electronic music as well, and he first had ideas for electronic music in 1948. In 1957, he wrote a piece called Requiem for String Orchestra, and in 1958, there was a composer named Igor Stravinsky that was visiting Japan, and it sounds like there was sort of this organization that wanted to play a bunch of prominent Japanese music for Stravinsky, and they accidentally played Takemitsu's Requiem for String Orchestra, and they started to cut it off, and Stravinsky actually said, no, don't turn that off, and made them play it till the end of the piece, which is fascinating to me, and that work, sort of, that association with Stravinsky helped catapult him to international prominence. If you want to look this work up, it's interesting because it sounds to me like late German Romanticism, like early Schoenberg combined with Hindemith, which for a self-taught musician to come up with something that advanced sounding is pretty astounding. So this association with Stravinsky helped, like I said, launch Takemitsu into international success, and he received a commission from the Kusvitsky Foundation for Aaron Copland and the San Francisco Symphony, which was probably Stravinsky's suggestion. Going on in his sort of career, in the 1960s, he became familiar with John Cage's work, and he experimented with indeterminacy and graphic scores. This influence did not seem to last in his music, but Cage's interest in Orientalism actually sort of turned Takemitsu back onto traditional Japanese music, and he found the beauty in his own culture, and so he started to incorporate Japanese elements into his music. Specifically, he started writing pieces for the biwa and shakuhachi, which are respectively a Japanese lute and a Japanese flute. During the 1970s, when he was reaching this international prominence, he was actually able to meet many of his Western contemporaries, including Karlheinz Stockhausen, Vinko Globokar, and Olivier Messiaen, which he pretty much cited as his largest influence. So getting onto his works, I found 6 chamber works that included percussion, and I'll just list off the titles of those. They're not necessarily percussion specific. They are called, in order by composition year, Sacrifice, Stanza 1, Waves, Bryce, Waterways, and Rainspell. His major sort of percussion works include a piece called Munari by Munari, which was written in 1967 and revised in 1971 for percussion solo. It's a graphic score based on a painting by the Italian artist Munari. In 1970, he wrote a piece called Seasons for percussion quartet. There's also a version for percussion solo with tape. And then I found some of the more out there pieces. 1971, he wrote a concerto for solo percussion called Cassiopeia. The instrument list for this is crotales, steel pan, 3 almglock and wind chimes, 2 gongs, 2 tam-tams, 2 sizzle cymbals, kalimba, timpani, tambourine, steel sheet, wood blocks, log drum, temple blocks, wooden plate, cowbell, 5 boobams, 4 rototoms, 3 tom-toms, and 2 kick drums with orchestra. quite the extensive percussion battery there. In 1970,
not a suitcase,
in 1974, he wrote a concerto for marimba with 6 Almglocken for the famous Japanese marimba player Michiko Takahashi, called Gitamalia Bouquet of Songs. And the interesting feature of this concerto is that it actually has no violins. He took the violins out of the orchestra to sort of clear a space for the marimba. And Bill Murch says it probably doesn't get performed all that often because no one wants to pay their violins to not work. In 1977, this is not a percussion work, but I wanted to point it out, he arranged 12 songs for guitar, including, I think, 4 Beatles songs. And I've heard some of these performed on marimba, and they are gorgeous arrangements. And all I can say is it sounds like Takemitsu arranged the Beatles. It's pretty cool stuff. Very sort of extended, colorful harmonies. Worked very nicely on marimba. In 1981, he wrote a piece called Toward the Sea, which until today I did not know was not written for marimba. It's actually originally for alto flute and guitar, but it seems to be performed very often on marimba, and that is, like I said, the piece that Ming played. Also in 1981, he wrote his Rain Tree for vibraphone and 2 marimbas with crotales that I think is probably his most performed percussion work. In 1984, he wrote a piece called Wavelength, which is an unfinished stage work for 2 percussionists, 2 dancers, and video installation. And then the last piece that I found was from 1990. It's called From Me Flows What You Call Time. It was commissioned by the Carnegie Hall Corporation for the centennial season of Carnegie Hall for Nexus, the Boston Symphony, and Seiji Ozawa. So this is a percussion quintet concerto, and I have the instrument list for this, which is also extensive, so bear with me. There's a steel pan part that was famously played by Bob Becker, glockenspiel, vibraphone, crotales, 7 Pakistani Noah bells, 5 Thai gongs, 2 temple bowls placed on timpani, 6 Chinese water gongs, anklung, darabuka, 5 Almglocken, 8 log drums, 5 tom-toms, 2 snare drums, marimba, 3 tam-tams, 3 suspended cymbals, and 3 Chinese cymbals. This work also has a pretty unique feature in that there are these wind chimes, and think about like front porch type wind chimes, not the ones we use in percussion, that are suspended on the ceiling, and there are these beautiful, colorful ribbons that come down from them to the stage. And there's a video of the Berlin Philharmonic performing this, and you see these ribbons going up to the ceiling. And I thought a nice quote to kind of sum all this up comes from Seiji Ozawa. He says, "I am very proud of my friend Toru Takemitsu. He is the first Japanese composer to write for a world audience and achieve international recognition." So yeah, that's Toru Takemitsu. I would love to hear about if anyone's played Rain Tree or your experience with I'm blanking on it. Casey, edit this part out. Toward the Sea. That Ming had.
Well, I can say real quick, and I know we want to hear from Ming, but I've told people many times I've played Rain Spell, and every time I tell percussionists I've played Rain Spell, they go, "Oh, you mean Rain Tree? It's called Rain. Excuse me, it's called Rain Tree." And I'm like, "No, there's one called Rain Spell too. It's a chamber piece. It's vibraphone, harp, clarinet, piano, blah 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 blah." And I've also played Waves.
Cool.
Yeah, but we want to hear from Ming.
Well, for me, it's very, very long biography. I mean, there's so many amazing Japanese percussion-related composition and a lot of composers. So Takemitsu's work is one of them. And for this piece, when I played this piece with my friend, actually it was really simple reason because that was her recital piece. The flute part is really significant, difficult, I think. I'm not a flutist, but it looks very difficult to me. And she gave me the parts with guitar parts, also gave me the harp part. There's 2 different versions. One is a harp and one is a guitar version. So I kind of combine both, and I actually use the harp version more than, I decided to use a harp because I have more lower register. I think what blends better with the flute. I'm not really a composer, but my sense of I kind of want to have some of the lower register sound versus with the flute, high auto flute, medium, low, high pitch sounds. I think blends better. I like that. So choose this version to play with her. It was really, really great experience. Yeah.
Has anyone else seen Nexus play? What is it from me? What is the full title, Ben? What you blah blah blah
From me
time.
flows what you call time. Yeah.
Yes. I've seen them perform that live a couple of times, and it is incredible.
Mm.
Yeah, some of
absolutely incredible
theatric elements for the percussion, and I this is kind of away from this topic a little bit, but it just remind me some of the works that I was doing with the Percussion Group in the past 10 years. Not this past 10 years, between 93 to 03, actually, it's not 02. So one of the very kind of serious music series is really, I really enjoy it, and had a lot of fun, and it really impacted me about how percussion performance was. Is a music theater series. They have this is probably 3 different program when I was there, and most recently it was Mulan. I think you probably guys know that. I didn't participate with Mulan this series at all because I'm already busy teaching and then having my baby right here. So, but at the beginning, the first music theater I remember was a Dream Wind Chime, that kind of type of thing. This, I would have to say Mr. Drew was really brave at that time, because if you want to have those interdisciplinary kind of program, and you want to have this whole program happen, and sell the tickets and to the audience who are never familiar with this kind of type of performance, it's a big risk. And you need to spend a lot of money for this. I remember the first one was, of course, they have a composer to compose whole concerts, like 1 hour and a half of concerts by one composer. And we have this amazing scene happen that, I was one singing, sitting in a swing and was waiting on the top of, where the lights are, because we're in the theater. So I kind of sit on the top of where the lights are. See how high that is? And with the all line of the wind chimes, probably 500 wind chimes on that setting. So there's a moment, and the whole thing's kind of pulled it down, and I was swinging in a swing, and play the wind chime out. So it's very scary.
Holy cow! Yeah.
But it was really fun, and that's one of the moments. That's a part of the music. So I'm just playing that, and at the same time, the stage raised up with about probably 500 balloons come out stage, and the members come out with the like fancy costume with the mallets with the needles on it, pop all of those balloons off.
What?
Cool.
That's amazing.
I want to play that part, but unfortunately, I was
seriously
playing wind chime. That was fun.
Well, you have to be on the swing. That's pretty cool too.
Yeah, but that was it was like probably in the 90s, and it was very early music series for that. It was really brave ideas I want to bring up from the audience. It was really early. I remember that. It was really impressive. Yeah.
So when you see people in the States, like percussion ensemble, and we're gonna parade in with djembes from the audience in the aisles, are you just like, oh my God, this is so lame?
We still do that a lot.
Yeah. It's like, come on, come down from the ceiling and have a few thousand balloons. Jeez.
Yeah, anything that's less than 500 balloons is not entertaining.
Well, yeah, they pop it every, they pop every single one.
And the popping, yeah.
That's cool.
That's super cool.
So was this one of the pieces that you did in those 500 concerts with Percussion?
Yeah.
Wow. How many?
It's actually probably more than 500 concerts because it's more like a concerts and gigs. I just can't, when I was with them, I didn't notice like I need to keep all my programs or all my records to make my resume looks awesome. I wasn't thinking about that at all because I thought I'm going to be in the Joe Percussion Group, period. I didn't come over here and become a professor at the university. I never thought about that. Because I thought after I graduate from my master degree and doctorate degree, I'm going back, to Percussion Group and take a full-time job over there. So that was my thought. I didn't know I was gonna meet my husband and marry to him and then stay here. Yeah. So.
Yeah, sure. Then you've got something, I think.
Yeah, the theatrical thing reminded me of, and it's not anywhere near as entertaining as that. The theatrical thing reminded me of, in the score for Rain Tree, there are actually directions on lighting, and sort of a theatrical element to that as well. And I came across a blog entry on the Nexus blog by Bob Becker called Answers to Questions About Rain Tree by Toru Takemitsu. And Mr. Becker talks about he worked with Takemitsu in Japan on the lighting, and it sounds like they had a fourth person off stage with the score that was controlling the lights. And it sounds like, I can't remember exactly what it said, but it sounded like at one rate it was effective, but also Takemitsu thought it was distracting, and he said to just scrap that part of the instructions. But then also, if you know anything about Rain Tree, you know that it requires a low A and low B cretale, which are not at all standard. And Bob Becker says in this blog entry, he says, I have 2 sets of the low A and B cretales that are required for Rain Tree. The older set I ordered from Kolberg in Germany at great expense when Nexus started touring with the piece. They sucked when I got them and they still sound like crap. Robin refused to play the low A.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious.
It's so funny because we always think of Kolberg as making these just legendary, amazing percussion instruments, but it apparently can't make a low cretale.
Well, sure. I mean, every instrument.
Wow, that's hilarious.
But I mean, just the physics of the tuning. Yeah, I mean, like vibraphones sound crappy at a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, crotales are going to sound bad.
That's why they don't go any lower, and that's probably why the crotales don't go any lower.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, instruments have a range based on the physics of how they function and how they work.
You would think, because this piece in
I would imagine that
Russell Peck's Percussion Trio Concerto, The Glory and the Grandeur, they both require those low crotales. I can't remember what note the other one needs, but you would think someone would come up with like a low A and B crotale to sell on Steve Weiss or something, but nope.
Yeah, right. Zildjian has those crotales. They're kind of silver looking, and they're tuned. They sound great, but they're tuned so the overtones don't clash as hard. I don't know if you guys have heard those. They just sound really clean. Like you don't get that piercing dissonance on like a minor second. Have you heard them?
No, not yet, but I understand what it is.
It's cool. Megan, I'm sorry, you had something. I think we had a little internet blip there.
No, I think that most people probably take those crotales up the octave. Did you guys do that if you played it?
I haven't played it, but I know that's a common thing.
It's probably common, yeah.
I just played on marimba. It sounds fine.
Add it.
Yeah.
Add it.
Yeah, right.
Just tune up a timpani.
Yeah, I just play, whatever. Play the Pius Chang mallet on the timpani. Sounds bad. What do you got, Ben?
Ming, I came across 2 other pieces on your YouTube. I wanted to ask if you could just tell us a little bit about, I'll ask both and then you can take them one by one. One is The Wave, which is a sort of almost like a sequel to Marimba Spiritual. It's marimba solo with 4 percussionists that was written for Keiko Abe. I think it was by Keiko Abe and another percussionist or composer. I can't remember his name. And also, you played a piece called Roberts Park, which I don't think anyone has heard of except for me, because the composer of it was actually a band parent at my high school, David Brown.
Really?
Yeah, and so David Brown played in the Blue Devils pit in like the early 80s. He was the first, in the first DCI pit ever, and he studied at Juilliard. And he does not play marimba anymore, but I have his recording from when he did play marimba, and he was one bad boy. He could seriously play marimba.
Dang.
Yeah, for that piece, I really, really love the second movement. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's just like when I play the second movement, I just keep, can you imagine? I have a goosebump when I play that piece.
And the second movement is called Lullaby for Evelyn, and it's dedicated to Evelyn Glennie.
This is 7. That's a second movement. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I think this piece is also not published anymore, right?
So how did you come across it?
I don't know. This is one of piece that, oh, wow. Long history. Do you want to listen to it? From when I was in Taiwan, that was a year that the period of time that the internet is not really popular as convenient as right now. And all of the music that we order from Steve Weiss are just from catalog. So this is one of the piece I just kind of like mark. Those Roberts Park looks good. Mark, and I order it. That's it. And so excellent. It turned out pretty good. That was like we probably, that was a time that I really good on spending money on Steve Weiss. I probably order like a 30 pieces, but only can use probably 5 or 6. Because right. I don't have any resources. I mean, no YouTube at that time, and the limit of the resource of performance in Taiwan, and then all of these published works are in the United States. So, and at that time, the Steve Weiss doesn't have a website, or they have, I just don't know. Mm-hmm. Then just order from catalog, those descriptions from the catalog. That's it.
I remember that. It was like a phone book style catalog.
Yeah.
Yeah, the paper was really thin.
But that was a time that we ordered music from Steve Weiss. So that was one of the music order from during that time, and I would play it, and I just love the second movement a lot. I didn't play first and third as often as second, and the second movement that I posted on YouTube, it was one, I put that piece in between 2 fast piece. So that lullaby, that piece, the second movement is really, really kind of like soften the 2 like fast aggressive piece, like it kind of calm down a little bit. Yeah, and I give a very good movement for the audience, like kind of relax type of music. Yeah.
I do remember ordering music from Steve Weiss that I had no idea what it was. Like you said, no internet, no YouTube, no website. Do you guys remember doing that? I was thinking of asking everyone. Do you remember the last time you did a shot in the dark? Like, oh, this looks like it might be cool. I'll order it, and of course
also,
it's like nothing.
When you were buying, your I don't know, C refractions or whatever, it's like the piece costs like $4 and it's going to be $8 to ship it. You're like, well, I might as well just get a couple other things while I'm calling.
Right.
Yeah, I remember order one percussion ensemble piece and come out with a very beautiful graphic pictures and projecting this kind of little film-ish thing. And I was a high school student. I have no idea what this graphic notation is. I was like, oh, what is this? I'm kind of wasting my money. The title was really beautiful, nice, and then it's like a grade 6 piece. The difficulty level is grade 6. Okay, this must be a great piece, so we order it. So I have no idea what was it. For a high school student at that time, I really don't get it. What's that?
I'm guessing that the wave didn't just happen across. I'm guessing you knew the wave.
Oh, sorry. Thanks for reminding me. I need to talk about the wave. The wave I first saw was in Taiwan. One of the members, she played this piece for one of the concerts, and this is before the wave actually officially published. So I love that piece because there's some of the great kind of like flamenco style of clapping. I really like it, and it sounds like a Keiko Abe, and and those second half of the piece is really, really has a very aggressive, and I really like it, that kind of thing. And I think it's a really good ending piece for a concert. So I played this piece several times for different events, and it turns out very good because it really, I think I can feel this music very well. I can, I just like this kind of style of music because I really can put myself really into music without thinking about how nervous I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of music you only thinking about music. You don't actually think about how nervous you are, right? So this kind of like, the beautiful slow section is then I love this kind of piece. Yeah.
Did anybody see Keiko do it at PASIC? I think it was 2000?
No, it was 2006, and I know this because that's when she came to UNT. And there's actually a different version that she does, and it's the Wave for marimba ensemble, and the percussion parts remain. And so she did that piece at UNT, then at PASIC in Austin that same year. And it was funny because she played it with UNT percussionists with her percussion ensemble, and there was another UNT student that took a lesson with her, and he paid her cash for it, and then she took all the UNT percussionists out to dinner with his money that night. But then
That's
also,
amazing.
if you go on YouTube, there's yet another version, and it's like a concerto version of it. With there's a recording of Keiko Abe playing it with wind ensemble.
Oh, okay.
And I think there's also an orchestra version of that same one. So just like most Keiko Abe pieces, there are different versions, and she kind of gets her mileage out of them.
I was at the PASIC that was supposedly, it was said to be Keiko's last PASIC, which I think she's since came to PASIC since then. But I remember it was at a church. She played the Wave. I want to say it was solo marimba and 3 percussion. I do remember Michael
Maybe she did
the
other version like years earlier. I don't know, but that was 2006.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right. That is what I remember, because the only one I saw was the original one. But I remember Mike Udao just tearing it up. Like, he's the one that, of course, I remember her, but I remember Mike Udao as one of the percussionists. Just like, anyway,
yeah,
really,
it has
really
this
cool.
like hocketed yelling part in it that's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Super cool piece. Doesn't get played enough.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're coming near the end, but I would like to throw another question at Ming, just sort of I guess it's a job-related question, but can you just, I met you at Moorhead State there with Mace, and can you just tell us how you came to work with Brian Mason, and then how you ended up going on to DePauw?
I have to say, because we had this college kind of contract, familiar with kind of sister schools from different universities. Ours has a kind of a contract with the Moorhead State University. That's why I went there for a master's degree, and I was there for one. I was supposed to be there. My planning is just 1 year very hard work and get my degree and go back to Taiwan to take my full-time job into Percussion Group. So, ends up like I stayed there and then for a long time, and I study temporary at the WVU and then UK, University of Kentucky. Eventually got my doctorate degree over there. So I during my doctoral degree, and there's some of the certain type of the scholarship of type of assistantship type, and I have the opportunity to work at Moorhead as a part-time faculty, and I don't know how this scholarship work, but ends up like I have a few free tuition and can work with them. I think this is a really turns out very well. If I want to say my percussion professional development, it was training by Percussion Group, and I would say working with Brian is really a great opportunity training me as a professor. Yeah, he is really fantastic educator, and then really well organized. Where he can organize the things, fantastic.
Yeah,
and he's teaching philosophy, and it's really influenced me a lot. and also, the ability to organize how to run a percussion ensemble and percussion studios really, really benefit me a lot. I just have to say he's one of my important mentors in my life. Yeah.
I've learned a ton from Brian on those same lines you talked about, just from crossing paths with him again and again. And we've crossed paths a lot.
Yeah.
And man, yeah, I just couldn't agree more. Brian Mason's awesome.
Yeah.
He's also an awesome fisher. Did you go fishing
right?
with him?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't fish with him because I really don't like fishing. But I think that is one of the activities he really likes, and he can actually thinking what he's doing. This his habit.
Brian was my teacher in drum corps, and I
Really?
agree completely that I learned so much from him about teaching and playing, and he's just a phenomenal person. Yeah.
Okay, Ben, say something nice about Brian Mason.
I have a friend that studied with Brian Mason that is really good.
That's nice. That's
he's really, really great colleague to work with, and I think he also reminds me, actually teach me a lot, be a percussion musician, whatever, in the United States. Because when I was in Moorhead, I had a very, I don't know if a Kaibo had have a cultural shock or something. I still have a cultural shock once in a while. Sometimes. But he really teach me how to, work with the American students and how to handle your reputation and blah, 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 so on, so on. He's really, really good and helped me a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And then when we go to DePauw, actually, was it because my husband got the job over here first, and then I be able to teach those music appreciation and fundamentals at first for 2 years, and then job opened. Of course, I want to jump in. I was just like, I just very aggressive. I want to do this percussion job because this is how I'm doing the best to doing this in my whole life, and doing, for a long time. I know how to do it, and I really want to do it. So I just fill it in.
That's good timing. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
So this is my second year, and the job is a part-time job, but we don't know when gonna turn full-time. It's being the part-time for a while. Mm. I'm the only one to teach percussion here, so
they need you. So it means you're not.
I'll make myself more like a valuable percussionist and educator, so they need me. How about that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, guys, thanks so much, Megan, Ben, Kai, and of course Ming. Man, it's just great to see you again as always. And yeah, thanks a bunch.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, guys. Well,
awesome.
What was this? This was 131, so we'll catch you next time. And
Episode
okay.
132, our guest will be Robin Cangelosi.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh.
He's got a lot to say.
Youngest podcast
about
guest.
dissertation?
About his dissertation, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right.
I was just thinking about once you have a baby, how much that we can do for children's, the music education for children. I mean, there's not too many percussion concerts designed for children.
Well, we've already decided he'll be an astronaut.
Astronaut?
Or a doctor.
No, I mean, for fun.
We've just decided. That's it. Done.
Just decided.
Yeah.
I keep telling my son they should be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer.
Oh, yeah, engineer. I forgot about that. Engineer. That's fine.
Advice for today: don't be a musician.
Yeah, I guess.
Learn from our mistakes, kids.
Aww.
Is this public speaking? I mean.
Oh yeah, we're good. We're live. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Bye everyone. Thanks a lot.
Are you sure?
Bye.